Episode 12 also introduces our first recurring villain, Dr. Yugami, a yokai scientist that'll side with monsters to beat the Kakurangers. And so, Episode 14, we get our first main villain, Prince Jr., the son of our big bad, the Daimao, and along with Junior are his own proto-evil rangers, the Flowery Kunonichi team, evil girl ninjas. Calling them proto-rangers might be a stretch, but they're more of specialized mook, but you get what I mean.
And Junior is such a scary ass villain. You're just afraid of what he's going to do next and how he's going to react. And he'll have moments when he looks into the camera, either to pan out the end of an episode, or if it's just a scene and he just so happens to be looking into the camera, you're afraid of how he's going to react.
Junior's whole goal and motivation is to bring forth his dad from the Door of Seals to plunge the world into chaos. So, let's take a break from the story to talk about the first, shift in tone. We're 14 episodes in, and we now have a general in charge. How do I feel about it? Honestly, because the individual monsters are so unique, I don't feel anything lost now that they're falling in line. If anything, they're stepping up their game.
Which brings me to one of my favorite aspects about this show, and that is the monsters.
I love that we learn their backstories every episode with every new monster. They're so different from Monsters of the Week that we have gotten in any other Sentai before, or at least at this time, because, I don't know, if I watch an episode of, say, Boon Boonger or King Oger, like now, you would just look at a monster and just think, there's a monster, it's evil, it doesn't really have any layers. But in this show, remember, the yokai are monsters of Japanese folklore, so they already have their own story, they already have a personality, and we see that literally explored in Kakuranger. Like, for example, there's the Amano Jaku, whose story was, he was, of course, an evil yokai that wanted to threaten a town, and he was eventually imprisoned. But then, of course, once he's freed again, he goes about his mischievous ways. But for a real example of how yokai are in this show, mind you, it's like, the yokai in this show, yes, there are monsters from 1,000 years ago, but in this show, they're brought into the 90s. Like, for example, the Oboro Grumarama, the yokai that was a haunted ox cart. In the 90s, it's a taxi cab who's fed up with passengers mistreating him. Thank God Uber didn't exist back then, man, because that dude would blow a fuse. Like, oh my god. I can't believe I'm mentioning this example, but I also really want to. Sonakaki Baba, the old maid yokai that threw sand on people for pranks. In Kakuranger, the source of her powers is in her boobs. I'm not kidding. That's an actual episode. If you freaking look up the monsters on Google, you might find a picture of her too to get what I mean. And dear Lord. And I'm sorry, I want to mention one more crazy example because it goes to show how the yokai really vary in this show from completely evil to just being a jerk. Like, oh my, what's even the ratio to describe that to? Like, Doc Ock to Doofenshmirtz? I'm not kidding. Just that level of sadistic to that level of petty, I guess. It's crazy, but I love it. And there's another example I want to give that just breaks away from that. Episode 18. The yokai of that episode is Zakashi Warashi, and it's a spirit that loves to pull pranks and spread good fortune. So it's not a bad guy. Like, hell, they make the Zakashi Wadashi a little kid that just wants to play with other kids. But of course, to flex how evil he is, Junior threatens Jiraiya's life if Zakashi Wadashi doesn't side with him. I find this episode worth mentioning because in the 30 years after special, well, yokai act a bit differently then. Of course, there are some evil ones too, as they are in the 30 years after special, but I feel like these are the one types of monsters in Sentai that have truly evolved because, like, I don't know, I'm diving in a bit into the 30 years after special now, but by then, yokai don't have their powers and they're just living lives. Like, think back to the first episode where it's been thousands of years since the yokai have been freed or had their powers sealed away. That's enough time to reflect on one's behavior and decide they want to start fresh. The Kappa wasn't a good example, but it goes to show that not all yokai are evil and just want to live in peace, whereas others want to cause trouble and need to be dealt with. Honestly, these are the most in-depth monsters we've ever had in Sentai, like ever. And so, I find this episode worth mentioning because of how sad it is at the end. And of course, there's more nuance that we do see later. And so, episodes 23 and 24 conclude the first arc of the show. Junior now takes action to summon his dad by performing a ritual that in the process turns people to stone. The Kakurangers are distracted by the monster of the week, so they can't stop Junior, and it's real bad. And here's the kicker. Muteki Shogun isn't enough to stop the monster of the week, and it loses immediately. Everything seems lost until a certain white bird drops from the sky. The Falcon Zord, Tsubasamaru. It flies in and immediately changes the odds, combining with Muteki Shogun to make Super Muteki Shogun and beats the monster.
Say hello to my little friend!
By the time Super Muteki Shogun beats the monster, the Kakurangers get to dealing with Junior. The type of yokai Junior is to is a Gashadokuro, the skeleton monster that's made from the bones of people who have died of starvation or killed in action. They fight, and on the macro scale, Junior owns the Jusho fighters, and the Kakurangers are beaten again. And here is when Sandayu transports them to the Phantom Castle. Oh yeah, Sandayu. I haven't mentioned him up to now because he's very sporadic. Like, he shows up to dick around, then leaves. That's pretty much his character. But we all go to the Phantom Castle, and we learn about the history of the conflict with the yokai. 2,000 years ago, the Daimao led yokai in a war against humans, and opposing them were three sages who created a ninjutsu technique to seal the yokai. Before the three sages had died and reincarnated into the Heavenly Triad, aka the mechs of this show, Muteki Shogun, Tsubasamaru, and the third one, Kakure Daishogun. And 400 years later, the Triad assisted the Kakurangers' ancestors with sealing the yokai away again. The explanation is a bit complicated when you think about it, that Muteki Shogun is its own person, and the techniques they use aren't imitating, but awakening him in the form of his components. There's just so much to think about, like when they form Muteki Shogun, who's in the driver's seat. But each of the mechs holds the essence of their form of ninjutsu. For Muteki Shogun, its body. For Tsubasamaru, its heart. And for Kakure Daishogun, its technique. But unfortunately, the 5 scrolls to summon their mechs for Kakure Daishogun were lost a long time ago. So in order to find them, everyone has to split up and meet back in 1 month's time to stop Junior.
See you again, my Kakuranger.
So that was Act 1. The shocking change from comedy to serious was pretty gnarly. And the transition was very gradual, showing that their threat is escalating, and now, well, shit hit the fan. Now, I haven't seen this show entirely since 2015, and now that sounds like a good thing because most stuff I don't remember. Rewatching, I like it all a lot more now. Like, for the next couple of episodes, it's just members of the Sentai getting their scrolls. And so, episode 25 is a bit special for me, since this was the first episode of Kakuranger I ever watched. And it stands out in my memory so much because Mei the Terror Ranger from Zoo Ranger guest stars, and she's paired with Sasuke as he gets his super stealth beast. So, episode by episode, everyone gets their new mechs. The one episode I didn't like per se was Tsuruhime's episode. I didn't like the message it was saying that. Okay, the episode was trying to convey that caring for others is a good quality for a leader, but it also puts down Tsuruhime as a leader because she's a woman. And I don't get that at all for the life of me. Tsuruhime has to be second to Jiraiya to have been training to be a Kakuranger her entire life. Shoot, in the first episode, she solos the minions. Hell, in another episode, she solos some monsters again. Like, she's tough enough to literally be a leader. Like, and it's all worth bringing up because Tsuruhime is our first female leader in Sentai, and this episode doesn't do her justice. And so, another thing to mention before going further are a couple of characters that support Tsuruhime in this episode. There's Sendai's apprentice, Boon, and his two dogs that I'll mention again later. And so, episode 27, the yokai of the episode is the Newell, and once Seikai and Saizo get their scrolls and meet their mechs, they send him down a chasm, and he's the monster of the week for the next two episodes. And so, episodes 28 and 29 are Jiraiya's trial to obtain his scroll, and his test is to face his old master. And fun fact, Jiraiya's master is played by Jiraiya's actor's real-life dad. That alone is awesome because, for one, Jiraiya's actor, Ken Kusagi, is an action movie star, and so is his dad, Sho Kusagi. And if anyone's familiar with either of their movies, please say so in the comments down below. Back to Kakuranger, we learn about Jiraiya's time in America, and when his dad died, his master and his family took him in. But it turns out it was the master who killed his dad. When Jiraiya was a kid, his master got into a bad car accident that left his daughter critically injured. And seriously, what way was he going through a construction yard, and how did that not kill the both of them? Newell appeared before him and made him a deal. If he killed his best friend who is investigating him, he'll save his daughter. That has to hurt, having to choose a life to save and a life to lose. That's so... Who told you to play God? Like, he was so guilty and could never make up for what he did, so he wanted to die. He wanted to die by Jiraiya avenging his dad. And their fight is magnificent. It's honestly one of the best pieces of choreography that come out of Super Sentai. No one's in suit. It's just two martial artists going at it, and it feels even better when you know the actors are father and son. Jiraiya disarming the claw on the master's hand just to use it against him. Awesome. There's so much fighting, so much conflict, so many emotions. Learning why he did what he did and coming to Japan to die by his student. Oh my, it is heart wrenching. It is all heart wrenching, man. But now everyone's back and they all set their sights on Junior. Episode 30, we're introduced to a double agent. It's Tsuruhime's dad, who left on a mission when she was 7 that resulted in him joining the yokai under the name Hakumenro, who again is a previous Sentai actor. This time it's Vulegal 2 from Sun Vulcan, and he's not the only one. KamenRider from Die Ranger is also in this show, along with his twin brother, who played Blue Beat from Juko B Fighter, and they're actually pretty important characters. They were kids of a neighboring ninja family that served Tsuruhime's family, and when their parents died, they were taken in by Hakumenro.
And, as I said, they went out on a mission. Their characters, Taro and Jiro, got captured, and the only way to save them was for Tsuruhime's dad to join the yokai.
Naturally, she can't believe it, and once he starts beating the guys, her tune changes. And so, episode 31, Junior catches on to Hakumenro and confirms his theory by opposing it to Sandaiyu, and Sandaiyu doesn't deny it, and instead tries attacking Junior. Mind you, Tsuruhime is there, and he could have just kept denying it, because Hakumenro wants to keep his, dual nature secret, so no one needs to know. Well, no one must know. But no, as Junior is saying, Hakumenro isn't really on our side. He's actually a double agent. And Sandaiyu just attacks him and does not do anything to disprove him at all. But just to show how hardcore he is, Junior takes Sandaiyu's sword and stabs him to death with it. Jesus Christ. It's not like Jiraiya disarming his dad for the claw weapon. No, Junior just did that for shits and giggles. The man had his own sword and could have just done him in himself, but no, take the man's sword, kill him with it, because he can just do that. And shoot, I didn't talk about Sandaiyu too much because, there wasn't much to talk about, but Jesus, man, he meant well. My God. And in the pursuing mech battle, Sandaiyu informs everyone to form Kakuranger Daishogun just before he dies. Oh my God, Junior is an evil bastard, and I'm so happy he gets what he deserves here. But let's talk about, Kakuranger Daishogun. Junior got me heated up, man. But yes, Kakuranger Daishogun. This is made from the Super Stealth Beast, to which all those individual mechs alone, they look awesome. Red's is my particular favorites because it stands on its own 2 feet, it's armed with dual swords, and there are a couple of times where it beats Monsters of the Week all by itself. And getting off of the Giant Beast Generals, these mechs are all pretty streamlined. And there's White's, whose crane resembles a paper crane. Still streamlined, but yeah. But Kakuranger Daishogun itself, not bad. I think I might like Muteki Shogun a bit more, just by comparison. But this isn't too bad. Honestly, none of my favorite mechs are from this show, but this is a B or A, maybe somewhere an A or B tier mech. But that's just me at least. And its finishers are and its finisher is so dope because it's punching you out to death. And apparently there's some symbolism there too, like the wolf resembling, I want to say, a closed fist to punch you, while the ape, wait, no, I forgot which one. I think the ape on one arm is supposed to be a closed fist that's punching you, while the wolf is supposed to be an open palm. I think that's what it is in that particular order. But shoot, another thing to mention here is that red is not in the middle. Like, red's not the chest. Red is an arm, which here makes a lot more sense because red's not the leader. White's the leader, and she's the head. So it makes all the sense in the world here. But yeah, Kakuranger Shogun, not a bad mech. But I guess while we're at it now, let's discuss just the mechs in this show in general. Because Muteki Shogun is a large departure from Kakuranger Shogun. We went from Ninja Sentinels from the last 30 episodes to now animals. Like, if you've seen season 3 of Mighty Morphin, like, you remember Kakuranger Shogun, aka the Ninja Megazord, because it came first. Then they switched to Muteki Shogun, and yeah, here it's weird. Like, it made a lot more sense in it's weird here. Like, Mighty Morphin made it make more sense there. Like, the animals coming first and then getting the robots because, well, in the case of Mighty Morphin, with how season 3 started, they needed a new set of Zords for all 6 Rangers. Here, it's kind of like de-evolution. It's like, and I don't, it's like, it's weird that going from the robots to animals because, I don't know, maybe a regular wolf is more intimidating than a wolf man? I don't know, but we honestly actually do see this again, too. Like, this type of thing happening, like, starting off with individual mechs and going to animals. Yeah, we're gonna see that again, too, in Magi Ranger, whenever I review it. Once they get their legend mode mech.
With Tsubasa Maru, they make Super Kakuranger Shogun and finally kill Junior. It's a Pyrrhic victory, however, since the Daimao has fully revived and has come to our world. And as for Hakamenro, his cover is still intact.